Let's call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any more chairs back there? We need to get some more chairs. Still here. So got some back there? I got a few that we can roll in if we need more chairs.
We're fine, thank you.
Okay. Roll call, Jim?
Mike Wrigley.
Here.
Bobby Milosevic.
Here.
Janet Vance.
Here.
Bob Kramer.
Here.
Jay Reetzman. Here.
Okay, is there a board member conflict of interest statement? Do we need, is anything applicable? Okay. Your public comment on agenda items. Yes, ma'am.
You need to come over here.
Yeah, if you'd like that, I would appreciate it. Make sure it's on. Thanks, Jane.
Tommy? Okay. Jane McGinnis, and I have a comment on consent agenda item D under correspondence regarding my copyright infringement claim. I'm happy to report the issue appears to be resolved satisfactorily, and I want to thank the party involved for the prompt and professional response to removing the subject photograph. I also want to tell all the board members and residents of Tuscarora Township, please know that, as always, our photos on the township website are there to enjoy and promote our positive image of our community. And we're happy to share them. Just ask first. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment? Yes, sir, Ms. Michael? Good.
I'm Paul Michael. I'm going to comment on Old Business Club Road. I object strenuously to the use of any public monies to pave Club Road, whether it be township money, ARCA money, or whatever. ARCA money is used for the good of the township, and paving this road has no impact to the good of the township. You could turn this road to dirt, block off the end by Burger King, and it would not affect the flow of travel because Martha Street to Club Road to Onaway is the primary county road. This road is a secondary road, no different than any other secondary road in the township. I live on Plymouth Beach Road. We wanted to pave Eagles Nest Road. We didn't have a say-so in paving Eagles Nest Road, but we did spearhead it. And we paved it. We paid for it. We just finished paying for it. Now my question to this board is, since Eagles Nest Road is East Burt Lake Road in any way, shape, or form, just like a comment was made that Club Road is East Malt Lake Road, if you're going to afford this to Club Road, it should be afforded to us, and if not, us and every other special assessment district in this township should be reimbursed for the money that they paid. All secondary roads, to my knowledge, since I've been here, have never been paid with public monies. They have always been paid through a special assessment district with the homeowners and the secondary benefit owners paying for them. Why all of a sudden are we changing this? For the benefit of 14 properties? I keep hearing the words of lack of transparency. The last election I kept hearing lack of transparency. Where's the transparency here? I mean, what's the reasoning? What is a good, solid reasoning for this road to be paid for using public monies?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Want to remind everybody, please, no, we don't need that. Please, I'd like to remind everybody, it says 3 minutes is your public comment time. Beth, go ahead.
Oh, I would like to take this opportunity to address this issue surrounding the repavement of Club Road from M68 to Martha. Club Road is a local road, not a primary road, which was confirmed in a phone conversation with the County Road Commission. As such, the township should not be drawing upon the township funds to pay for this expense when all previous roads have been paid by special assessments levied upon the taxpayer. I understand the proposal. It was intended to be paid for improvements from the ARPA funds and the general fund, which is clearly stated in December 26 meeting. After reviewing the ARPA funds are only to be used for 5 specific purposes set forth in ARPA Act. Road repaving is not one of these listed. Additionally, I confirmed this with Congressman Jack Bergman's office. Club Road is not a primary access road for the boat launch and the marinas. Visitors should be following the state route by the state of Michigan, which is M68 to Straight Highway, turn right. Go to Martha, turn right. Then turn left on Club Road, bypassing the local road. A suggestion to eliminate the wear and tear of Club Road would be to place a sign on M68 before Club Road stating that it is a private road and to use M68 to Straight Highway instead. The township cannot make a decision to change a local road to a primary road. Perhaps the residents and the board should work in the Sheboygan Road Commission to make it an official change. If the township approves this proposal for the paving of Club Road, then we are losing approximately $78,000 that should be contributed by the state and $14,000 that should be contributed by Burger King. Typically, the township contributes only 10% for a road assessment. For example, in 2006, a special assessment was for the village Eagles Nest. Eagles Nest was done in 2016, and Prospects, Chippewa Beach, and Wabi was done in 2020. If the township decides to pay for Club Road, where, when, and should the people who have already paid for road assessment submit paperwork for their refunds? In closing, I would like to submit the following petitions and the letter from Jack Berman's office to the township. We are not opposed to Club Road being repaid, but we are opposed to Club Road picking up the whole tab.
Thank you. Public comment? Public comment on agenda items. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify that.
Nobody can hear you unless you...
Can I turn this in?
Yes, thank you.
I just want to clarify that the Planning Commission report that was submitted was not, even though it has my name on it, it was not what I submitted. It should have probably, if we were going to change it, you should have taken my name off. That's all I wanted to say.
That was my error.
Thank you.
That was my error.
Public comment on agenda items? Yes, sir.
So my wife is texting me. I forgot the paper. I wrote my notes on at home, so I'm reading from my phone. So good evening. My name is Chris Brown. I'm the co-owner of the Waterway, and I'm also the president of the Indian River Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Regarding Club Road, from the Convention and Visitor Bureau perspective, we know that thousands of tourists and visitors come to this area and stay at our lodging establishments. They do use parts of Club Road, and I can tell you, living on that corner, I hear it all summer long from 6 a.m. till past midnight. But it is being used, and it's used heavily. And they're using it to get to the destinations, including but not limited to the Township Boat Launch, Hell Marina, the landings, Resort Marina, and more. Yet we don't ask the major users of Club Road to pay a dime. And so tourists and visitors being a significant portion of this economy, and Club Road is a significant thoroughfare for these groups, asking these landowners who represent a very minor chunk of the traffic on there doesn't seem to be a word I hear used a lot, which is fair. But on that note, I hear this fairness in the idea that, well, we had to pay an assessment on our road, so it's only fair that Club Road has to pay. Well, the question we should be really asking here is, who is using the road? So if you live on a road that had an assessment, are you dealing with the same amount of traffic and quantity and volume as the folks on Club Road? So I go to something that I read about called Jesuit casuistry, and it's used in situations like this where you have a unique problem, and you find two standards to compare it against. So if we compare the Club Road, and we compare it on one end to something like Eagle's Nest, and we compare it to the traffic on 68, when we think about who's using the road, what's it closer to? And living on that corner, certainly it's much closer to M68. So if we don't use special assessment districts for folks on M68, then we really shouldn't be using it on Club Road. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Public comment on agenda items, anybody? Public comment is closed. Approval of consent agenda, and I want to include that we don't have it, it should be the entire agenda. Does anybody have any?
I have a few things I'd like to move out of the consent agenda.
There we go.
The minutes of 12/26, 1/3, 1/13, the payroll of 1/12, and then the invoice register that we were just presented.
Okay. Is there any others? I have one, and I'm still vague about this because your clerk's report, I asked for documents. What are we covering?
Do a verbal, Mike.
I know, but I mean, what is it? I mean,
It's good. I'm going to talk about the clerk's office.
clerk's office, and I asked that be on the consent agenda if there was no documents with it.
Yeah, and he bring me documents to put in there. That's correct. It'll be a verbal agenda item.
Well, when I had written this up, and I had communicated with you and Bob about this, it should be either in your comments or in the consent agenda. But you wanted to have, that's fine, if we had the documents to look at, because
The board agenda.
okay. And I asked you about what motion, what action are we taking on this? And you said just the support of
We're taking the action of looking at transparency, fiduciary responsibility, election security, operational efficiency. And I'm going to do a report up on what I found out in this clerk's office and what my deputy clerk found out in this clerk's office. I didn't want to put it in the agenda because I don't want people creating more rumors about what they don't know about, but what they care to talk about. So I will bring the whole thing to a close with what we've learned, what we've done, and what we're doing next.
I just have a problem because we're not seeing anything that.
I have a problem with a lot of things too, in terms of the way people treat the clerk's office. I'm going to speak about what has happened, what problems have been discovered, what problems have been fixed, and why we have these problems, and why they're not being transparent, and why there's what I would call irresponsibility in terms of.
Point of order,
fiduciary
we're
responsibility.
approving the agenda.
Yep.
So Mike is asking me a question, Bobby. I'm trying to answer his question.
Point of order to Mike then, because
Okay.
it's the agenda.
This is the agenda.
It's the agenda.
I had asked that this be, either have documents to go with it or put it in the consent agenda. You and I did not discuss this.
I will provide a document at the end of the meeting if you care to.
even if you put in the consent agenda.
I agree, I understand that, even if it was in the consent agenda, he could move it in there. I will make a motion to remove the clerk's report from the agenda. Is there any support?
I'll support that.
No, all in favor? Aye, opposed?
Opposed?
Okay. That is the agenda item approval. Any more, is there any more items? Okay.
Actually, can I make a motion to move the treasurer's report to new business as well?
Make motion to move the treasurer's report to the
New business.
new business. Is there support for that?
Sure.
And
Yes.
Bob supports. All in favor? Okay. Any more? The agenda, okay. Old Business Club Road. Is fine, Bobby? Move right into Old Business Club Road. And my proposal for a special assessment had been to assess each of the front, the parcel owners along Club Road, $750, which is payable over 5 years. The 3 parcel owners that are backlot owners, $500, and they could pay it over 5 years. That was my proposal, and I would ask that the board consider that. I know that they've talked about just paying for it, but I actually believe that it's equitable, because it really is not even close to what people are paying for their roads. Oh, is there a second? There's no second.
I'll second it to discuss it.
I have a point
Okay,
of
go
order.
ahead.
I have a point of order.
Sure.
This is an illegal motion. We can't proceed with any special assessment. We have over 20% petitions already submitted. It's a done deal. There's not going to be a special assessment proposed by the township. It has to come from the people now.
Is that though, so once the board votes to put a special assessment out there, you go through the process, then you get the 20%.
But we
Then it
already
dies.
have the 20%. We'd
The
be
board
wasting
still-
our money to go to Steve Mann to propose. It'd
we
be a
would-
waste of money.
We wouldn't go to that point. We would provide, if the board so chose to put the special assessment out there, then you would have the proper meetings. This objection that we have received is just objection, just like if we got a petition in another way. You have to go through the proper legal steps. The proper legal steps are either for the people to bring it forward or the board to bring it forward. And then you start the process of the meetings where the 20% would come from. The 20% coming before just gives us a barometer of where the people are. We could still legally, and it wouldn't be we wouldn't be to Steve Mann yet. Steve Mann doesn't come
But that's what the
until.
motion is.
The
The
motion
motion
is,
to approve contacting Steve Mann to write up the resolution for that, so we're asking him to perform the service. That's gonna cost us
This is, okay, I understand what you're saying. My proposal here is that the board would vote to begin the special assessment process. He would have to provide us with the legal paperwork to start on. That's how you vote. This is where we're at. And I started with a letter to the property owners explaining that we were looking for a way to pay for and pave the road and a special assessment. What I'm asking the property owners to pay is really minimal compared to what the entire cost is, but I think it's equitable. And I take some people who have spoken in favor of paving that. I understand it does get a lot of traffic, and it isn't generated, but we could say the same thing about Eagles Nest. A lot of those are Brill Lake people who said, you got to get this done, we'll chip in. Nada. I see, and again, we talked to Tuscarora Township, we talked to East Mullet Township, and they did not want to participate. They generate a lot of traffic. I think that $750 over 5 years is equitable.
Be that as it may, we know it's going to fail, unfortunately.
So there's a motion on the floor. There is a second.
In a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
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 Okay,
While we're on this subject, I would like to propose a Plan B. Right now, if there's no special assessment gonna go forward, because it will fail, because we've already received over 20% of petitions saying that they will not pay.
Turn your mic on.
Sorry, they will not pay for, the road. They said their use is minimal. It may be a secondary road, but it is used like a primary road, and we all know it. We all know it. So this is what I'd like to propose. Spaniards on there, I don't know how to.
I can take this down.
That's all right.
You want me to hold it?
Yeah, that'd be good. It won't take long. So, just a minute over. All right, I wrote it down so I wouldn't get messed up. We recognize as a board the general public wants the road improved. Responses to the Planning Commission's recent survey confirm this. Club Road is not a residential road. It is not like Plymouth Beach Road or South Avenue. Although Club Road is classified by the county as a secondary road, it is a primary road along the east side of Mullet Lake connecting M68 and I-75 access. The last traffic count showed a daily use of over 2,500 vehicles. Most of us don't live on a road with 2,500 vehicles going down there every day. Probably more important to local residents and visitors, Club Road provides access to Maria Park, the boat launch, and the trailhead. Tuscarora Township has $1 million investment in this park's infrastructure. And right now, the township is fortunate to be in a position where we can use funds other than the major part of general fund to pay for this project. The estimated cost of repaving the portion of Club Road is $193,500. I propose the cost is met by one, federal funds, which is ARPA. Originally, the board agreed to put Club Road on the list of possible projects for these funds could be used for. And yes, roads is an approved ARPA thing. I have document proof of that. And anybody, it's in right here. It's in, this is our Michigan Township Association thing, and roads is one of the approved things. It says you can use it for township hall and facility construction, all kinds of emergency services, cemetery maintenance or expansion, road projects, recycling services. It's all right here. Anybody can look at that if they want. The rules have been simplified on what qualifies for these funds, and road projects are explicitly listed as one of the approved uses. I propose we allocate $132,000 out of the approximate $133,000 left in that fund balance. County funds. These funds here, $25,000, have already been assigned for the Club Road project. This was money that actually came out of the increase of your gas money, of your gas taxes. The township contribution. Normally it's customary 10%. We've done that almost every SAD. This won't be an SAD, I don't think, but that's up for the board to decide. But we have to take into consideration that the township has contributed to the usage and the deterioration of this road because of our facilities at the end of the road. All the boats, all the boat trailers, all of the traffic that generates. The township, I believe also an additional 9% would be appropriate in this case since the township has the valuable properties on the road that is vital to our community and our economy. And this would bring the total township contribution to $36,679, which would come out of our streets and highways funds that has a current balance of $139,000. I believe this is the most logical and most practical use of funds that would benefit the community as a whole and substantial investments of the Marina Park and the boat launch, while also being fiscally responsible. Thank you, Pam. So,
Point of order, Janet, or point of information. You just presented that to the audience.
I presented to the room.
Okay, well, we couldn't see it
what is, yeah.
that you had up there.
I'm sorry. I thought everybody would be able to see it. But anyway, there we go. taking into consideration what happened, every road project is different. Every single road
Do you need
project.
to see this?
When we did Eagles Nest Road project,
I can see.
when we did Eagles Nest Road project, it was put out there that some people that had second lots that could not be joined to their first lot, their primary lot, could get the second one half the assessment. When we did Chippewa Beach, they took out the conservancy, which increased everybody else's assessment, but that's what they did.
It's not true.
No. They pay.
They're not taxable. They wouldn't have had to pay, and they made a contribution.
That's fine, but I'm just saying, they
They
voted.
didn't have to pay it. We didn't take it out.
Okay, so my language
They're
is not,
exempt.
but anyway, so not all tax exempt are exempt from.
They were exempt.
So anyway, but every road project, then we had Wilson Road. Wilson Road was not an SAD. And Mike, on that term, you were trying to figure out a way to pave that road because those people could not afford that road, but it was getting heavy usage from the school buses and the school traffic. And you tried like heck to figure out how to do it without an SAD. And I was on the board at that time, and I agreed with you on that there is no way that those people should have to pay for that road when they're not the ones that's messing it up so bad, and they're dealing with all that traffic. Same, kind of sounds like Club Road. Anyway, there was a road project being done by MDOT on I-75, and they were putting test
Yes.
asphalt on the road, and you got a phone call, and you said, hey, we got some asphalt left over. Can you use it in your township? We're right here. We'll give it to you at a reduced cost. Calls up the school. School said, fine, we'll take care of it. Your school taxes paid for that road, but it still got done without an SAD. So every road project is different. You have to take into consideration what is going on in that neighborhood, on that road, how much traffic, and the people that are paying for it. So this is my proposal, so.
Okay.
And I'd like to make
That's
that a
the
motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Now, can we
I
discuss?
was just saying discuss.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
No, we just did discuss before we got a motion. but-
What about the DNR?
Oh, the DNR, that's another thing.
Are they
Did
gonna
some, I
pay?
did some research
You
on
said
the
they pay,
DNR.
right, Mike?
Only if it was equitable with everybody else.
The DNR would only pay the same as what the other side of the road paved, if they paid anything at all. But I looked up in the special assessment thing, and this is, for townships from the MPA. And actually, it says, there's only some hard and fast rules about this kind of stuff. It's not exactly written down, but they called it the closest thing to hard and fast rules that can be offered. State-owned property is generally exempt unless it is not being used for public purpose. So in other words, it would be exempt if it's for public. You can't get more public than a trail. So we can but we won't get it, because they don't give it if it's an MDOT barn, state police post, a garage of some sort that they have their equipment at, they would pay the SAD. But because this is a public use, they probably won't. So if you're creating an SAD hoping that you double the money by getting the money from the DNR, it ain't gonna happen. Hope is not a strategy, so.
Any more discussion? Okay, do a motion, and we have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Attorney selection. Oh, wait a minute, we didn't put the resumes in, did we? We had
No,
two.
I asked you to, and if you wanted it, you said no.
We had two,
Right.
and
Plunkett Cooney.
Plunkett, Cooney, and MacArthur. The two, sounds like three, but it's Plunkett and Cooney is one firm, Tim MacArthur's the other. We had an interview with both of them, they answered some hard questions and sent,
You use your mic.
oops, I'm sorry, I'm not used to a microphone. I'm sorry, I apologize. We sent them Bob had come up with a list of questions. We sent them to the gentleman at Plunkett Cooney, and he was, Matt Cross, answered it rather good. Tim interviewed really well. You've had a chance to think about who you might like as the next township attorney. Does somebody want to make a motion as to who they would recommend?
I'll make a motion that we recommend Plunkett Cooney.
Plunkett Cooney? Is there support for that?
I'll support.
Jen supports. Is there any more discussion?
Yeah. Would the board be agreeable to have, if we approve the motion, would the board be agreeable for him to come to 1 or 2 regular meetings just to get to know us, see what's going on in the township? Not for a year.
Even with your microphone, I think you have to talk
Not
to
for
the
a
mic.
year, not for a year, not for 6 months, but maybe the April and May meeting.
If he can make them, because we'd ask him about that.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
said he
yeah.
said he goes to a lot of meetings.
I mean, I know this would be a separate motion.
Any more discussion?
They're both good candidates. Both good candidates. I believe Mr. MacArthur has more local township experience, but when we get to the big things that we're dealing with, like sewers, Plunkett and Cooney,
Yes, it is.
is going to offer a more diverse situation. I think also them not being small hometown may be good for this board at this point. So, I think it's a good selection. It's a tough decision because I do believe Tim would bring a lot to the table for us, but
Yeah.
I think it's the right choice at this point.
I agree with everything you said, Bobby. I think it was hard decision to figure out, which ones, but Plunkett and Cooney, I mean, I like them.
Mr. MacArthur, I really like, but he is an army of one, and he's very, very, very busy, and Plunkett Cooney has the depth all the way downstate to,
Your microphone.
yeah, it's what it do, failing, okay. They have the depth that we may need on some of the harder questions, and in his interview, you may recall, he said, well, I would send that downstate, or something like that, yeah, those batteries are dead. So, I agree.
Any more discussion?
Only the point that Plunkett Cooney brings subject matter experts and other aspects of the law that Matt can't cover. So we can count on him to bring in those subject matter experts that MacArthur may not be able to.
Can you hear in the back, people?
Okay, sorry. Plunkett Cooney brings in subject matter experts from their law firm, not only locally here, but from downstate if required. MacArthur does not, and he's only, as Bob said, an army of one, and he's likely to bring in other people, and we're not likely to actually get his services as much as we get somebody else. So I just think that given the breadth and depth of knowledge at Plunkett Cooney, it's a better choice.
Okay, we've had discussion. Any more discussion? There's been a motion to hire Plunkett Cooney and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Could we talk about having him come for 1 or 2?
I'll contact him tomorrow. Contact him tomorrow and tell him that he has the job and talk about his schedule. Couldn't guarantee when he can come. But is there a
Do I need to
motion?
make a motion?
Yes, make a motion.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, is there support?
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Bobby, sale of township property.
Okay,
Congratulations.
Yes, I will.
I'll read you my motion. My motion is to engage the services of Brian Fulford to establish property descriptions at a price not to exceed $2,250. After that, or not after that, in conjunction with that, accept the purchase agreement from Dross Chocolate LLC with an added contingency of the sale of all 3 parcels closing simultaneously. I would also add that we counter the offer from Mirmani Property Management LLC at a purchase price of $17,146. And I need to add 2 contingencies, I only have one typed in here, I thought of another one. Add the contingency of the sale of all 3 parcels closing simultaneously, and also the legal description that is typed in on that purchase agreement is different from the property size that Brian estimated. So we would also need to add in there the contingency that the legal description and property size will be that provided in the legal description by Mr. Fulford. Last part of it is to authorize Supervisor Ridley to enter into a purchase agreement with the GLOW once a proper legal description and square footage amount is established at the rate of $1.45 per square foot, with the contingency of the sale of all 3 parcels closing simultaneously. And just a little background on how I came to my motion. I spoke with several realtors, a couple of appraisers, and there aren't any good comps. Anything that we could find that was a strip of land that is really just benefits the neighboring properties doesn't compare. So I took the purchase prices, Brian gave me some estimates on the size of each parcel, and $1.45 a square foot was the best offer that we had. So I matched the other 2 offers to that first offer that was $1.45 a square foot. Confirmed with realtors and appraisers that yes, that is a fair, it's not way off. It's, you know, it's a fair price for what we're looking at. Also, we established, when in talking to Brian, that we had talked about selling Bear Barbell. The portion, there's not really a portion left. Once the way our sewer line goes through, there's not enough, there might be a couple feet of property. So that takes that off the table. It also creates a parcel left for the township to own. This isn't typed in the one I have. The other part of my motion was that the funds from this sale of this property be earmarked for a parking lot in that area that we will retain along Martha Street.
So I'll second your motion.
Thank you.
Can I, since I requested to be on the agenda, can I comment?
Could you take, well, we'll have to, just a moment. As part of the discussion, just a moment, is there any discussion here?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Craig, just a moment.
Maybe you could, for us all, go into a little more detail, because I really like how you came up with the money, but basically, what we're saying in this motion is all 3
All 3, yes. So
property owners.
and I think I have expressed this in prior meetings, that I really don't want to see the Drost property go and then us own the property on the other side that then becomes absolutely unusable.
Unsellable.
Yes. So one of the contingencies in these purchase agreements would be that all 3 would close. In speaking with Mr. Carpenter, we would also probably be able to save a little money at the title company end of it by doing all 3 sales together. So that helps with the cost to the township. The estimate, the amount that I have in here from Brian Fulford is an estimate from him. And he was very helpful in establishing size and shapes of the lots, so that I could put this together. So that was it.
I have a question. What would happen to the sliver of property that's still left that you talked about? You know, it's an odd shaped triangle or elliptical. Is that something that should be added to one of the other sales as a contingency?
The Bear Barbell?
Yeah.
No, it's mostly, and we'll know once Brian has the survey complete, but from him looking at the aerial and the previous surveys that he's done in that area, it is mostly the 12-foot that we need
For the sewer.
for the sewer line.
So
So,
it's basically
they're-
a sewer easement,
yeah.
right?
It's a sewer
So-
easement?
Yes, so we'll retain that property because it has our sewer easement in it. So we
So-
wouldn't want to just get rid of a foot or 2, we might as well
Right,
keep
so
it.
the foot or 2 goes over to the township.
Yes, yep, stays with us.
And how much money would you anticipate us netting if all this
Do
happened?
I have that printed?
I think you had that.
This is different.
$27,134. I have an old version.
That'd go a long way for a parking lot.
It's $250 for Brian.
2,000.
I know, but just 200.
Yeah, that was it, yeah, you have the
Okay.
bill as 2250,
Yes.
right? I changed mine.
Yeah, and I gave you guys his estimate.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's, Any more discussion? Greg, did you have a comment or a question?
I have a question.
Okay,
Can we go up there?
if you would, please.
I had requested to Mike that I could be on the agenda for this, so if I needed questions. Bobby, the township would retain 30 feet or something back against the grade?
Yes.
Can that be dedicated as, can part of this sale be dedicated that that's an easement all the way to Martha Road for the back of those 3 parcels?
Absolutely.
Because I believe that would also serve for your parking lot area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's all working out the details with Brian, but we can add that to the purchase agreement if that's.
Yeah, I just wanted to make
so that
sure
remains
that
in
if,
there.
if any of those parcels needed to come in from the back,
They
I mean,
could.
obviously, it could be at the cost of the parcels if they wanted it improved. But if the township does do a parking lot across that first part, then it would have to be laid out in such a way that the parking, that part was the access. That was it. Thank you.
Hang tight. So if I understand you correctly, if we put a parking lot that we would, from Martha Street to your proposed property, we would still want to be able to give you ingress and egress?
That's correct, and that's the area where the sewer line runs through, and that's why the proposals included the front approximately 50 feet, but we asked to leave 30 feet against the railroad grade at the back. So any ingress and egress that was needed, you know, I don't know what will happen with the black property or anything else, but if they need access to the back of that, I think it makes sense to have that 30-foot easement for all those parcels.
Now, would Mr. Black be able to get into his property from Martha?
Yes, that 30 feet would run the entire railroad grade from Martha all the way to the Globe.
So when it's all said and
That would
done,
be owned by the township.
in your opinion, when it's all said and done, will we have enough area left for a parking lot?
Yes.
I believe you would have I don't know what the lineal footage is, but the 30-foot easement would allow for ingress and egress to that parking area, and I believe there would be plenty of depth for single-car parking. I think the county requires a 22-foot road and at least 20 foot for a parking spot for a 90-degree parking. There's also some requirements for setback, but I don't know whether they would count in that application. Like from the main road, it's supposed to be 10 feet.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
More questions for Craig? Okay. We have a motion and we have support. Just no more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good, Bobby, thank you for that.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Okay, new business. I want to get the DNR going here because they've been patiently waiting. Margie and Nan, are you guys going to speak and then introduce Trish? Yeah, okay. When time comes, just hit that little pad and bring that map up again if that's, okay.
You know how to do that, Trish? Okay, thank you, because I don't. I'm Nan Prout, and this is Margie Ray. Oh, there, thank you.
Couple times down.
Okay. Anyway, a group of residents found out that they were going to do some logging, the DNR along M68. I'm sure most of you have heard about it. And the 80 acres, about 80 acres back south of there. When we heard about it, we were
Nan, your
concerned.
microphone, if you could bring it a little close, thank you.
We were a little bit concerned because of the beauty, number one, of the road as you come into Indian River. It would destroy that natural beauty. The regrowth from all the logging would be primarily aspen, and then there would be a lack of diversification in the species, and it would be detrimental to tourism, which is so important to this area. So we contacted Tricia, our local DNR forester, and met with her with some other citizens, and she gave us a quick education on logging and forestry management, which was very helpful. She indicated that the time for public review had passed, but said that with enough public support, we could maybe reach a compromise. The logging cannot be stopped, but we might be able to reach, equal ground somewhere.
And then after that, Margie contacted the board. We are a couple members of the board. I'll let you take over, Margie.
Got a little thing going on with my voice, so I guess I should. Okay. After we met with Tricia with a small group of local citizens, we contacted the board, and the board, a couple of members of the board were really interested in this, and I'm sure they all were. But Bob Kramer and Ms. Vance asked to meet with us and Tricia, and we ended up in a meeting here with about maybe 20 other people, and Tricia went through what the original plan was, and she explained a lot of different things related to forestry that people had questions about. And at that time, we said, Tricia, what could an alternate plan be to make DNR reach their goals of management of this land, but without being so intrusive and hurting our beauty along M68? It's going to look terrible. They're going to have trees laying there, and nobody's going to like that. And so Tricia went back, and within a day or two, we had a revised plan. And the new plan is much improved. It eliminates the clear cut along the road. The original plan included a 40-foot wide, 3/4 of a mile long clear cut immediately adjacent to the cleared area by the road. And it eliminated that, and it eliminated the rest of the clear cut in the back, and it moved that to selective cutting, which is a lot less intrusive. So we like the new plan because it does preserve the beauty along the road, and it leaves all the trees meeting legacy criteria. We can ask for sure what that means. And it leaves all the trees that have dens or hollows in them for nesting cavities, and it keeps the gaps away from the road and away from the trails that run through there. So it's not so intrusive to the trails either, because a lot of ATVs and other people go in there and use those trails. And then also, as it came out in the meeting, it will also preserve any individual trees or areas with indigenous, cultural, or otherwise historical significance, and it will specifically include those if they discover any while they're reviewing the land for timber cutting. So to get more information about the plan, I'd like to introduce Tricia St. Pierre of the DNR. She's our local forester, and her boss, Lucas Merrick, and they're here to tell the rest of the story and answer your questions.
I'm going to try to step aside. Margie and Leanne, thank you for the history. Standing here, I'm appreciating how difficult compromise and consensus can be. So I think we're really in a unique position here where we have compromised and we've reached a consensus among us with what's acceptable to the community, with ways that we can still accomplish our goals. So as they mentioned, I'm Tricia St. Pierre. Board, I appreciate you taking the opportunity to hear me tonight. The DNR is required by law to manage its state forests. We accomplish this by collaboration between our forestry, fisheries, wildlife, and parks divisions. While we're developing our management plans in collaboration with the divisions, we also invite public feedback and comment. When we're developing our plans, we take that comment, that feedback, and we like to incorporate that as best we can to meet our goals while incorporating your concerns. So in 2021, this area, to put it into perspective, this is Old 27, and then we have 68 coming across. We have Cross in the Woods, the Burt View Association, and then this is the State Forest Land Cooperation Park is right down here. Did everyone hear that okay? Okay. So in 2021, this parcel of state forest land was reviewed. We came to a consensus among our divisions at the time how to best accomplish wildlife and forestry objectives. The result was that clear cut that they mentioned. We addressed the County Road Commission. They supported our motion to clear cut along the road that would provide sunlight in the winter months to the road to lessen ice and snow buildup. It would help alleviate frost heave in the spring. We also delivered a letter to the township, and at that time we didn't receive any feedback from the township or from the public. So we went ahead and approved these management plans. So recently there's been public awareness and public feedback, and so we've had a couple meetings, and the result of that is, as Margie was saying, we eliminated the clear cut along 68. We have instead, we're proposing a selection harvest, which is identified in the cross-hatching, the red cross-hatching. It targets areas of mature and over-mature aspen, oak that is also advancing in years, and it helps to promote regrowth, regeneration. It provides early successional habitat for wildlife that depends on that cover type, not just mature forests. As you'll see, if you'll notice along 68, we've removed the treatment boundary, so there will no longer be any harvesting along 68. There will only be selection harvesting that occurs that it'll reduce visibility from the road. And with the selection harvest, we're proposing moving approximately 1/3 of the volume of trees as compared to the original clear cut, which had been approved. That would remove 100% of the trees. So again, keeping in mind that we went from a clear cut right up against 68, removing 100% of the trees. The compromise that we're proposing is a selection harvest, removing about 1/3 of the trees and incorporating concerns for aesthetics, for visibility along 68 and along the trails in the area. So this revised plan that you're looking at, it still needs to go through an internal review. So with the support of the public and with approval from the board, we'd like to present this to our managers on the local, regional, and statewide level and ask for their approval in a revision to this plan. So nothing is a guarantee, but we feel with your support, with the board's support, with the feedback I've received from the community, that we have a good opportunity here to come to a compromise. In addition, I mentioned in 2021, we didn't receive any public feedback for these proposed treatments. That feedback is critical, especially during that planning process, and it's educational from both directions. It educates the public on our objectives, our management concerns, our management considerations, and it educates us on what's important to you, the resources in your community that you value that we can incorporate into our management decisions. So I invite you all to be involved in the planning process. It occurs every year. Every 10 years, we cycle through state land. So this was looked at in 2021, which means in 2031, we'll be coming up with another management plan for this area. So I invite you to be involved in that and involved today in any other state forest management areas that you're concerned with. So with that, board, I would invite you to come in with any questions or.
Go ahead. The first one is just to explain, you and I were talking, the select cut is going to take place on the south side of the hill. You said they'd go with that little rise behind where the clear cut was?
Correct. So right adjacent to 68, there is a little rise in elevation. There's a little hillside there. Management would occur behind that hill. Yes.
Okay. The other question, I'm asking for a friend. Can I point something out?
Of course.
It's for you, Steve.
Right here, your select cut, you talked about the different circumference. How close are you going to be coming to this property line?
Yes. That's a good question. So I did speak with Mr. Casey. In generally, we do manage right up to the property line. It helps to reduce any confusion over where property ownership is. So in this instance, because it's a selective cut, we're comfortable managing up to the line. Again, it would just be a selection harvest. So removal of individual trees, not a large group of trees. When I spoke to Mr. Casey, one of the concerns is fuel load. So the chance that a wildfire might come into this area. While that's still an issue anywhere that you have forest, this harvest will help relieve that area of a higher fuel load. And adjacent to the house, adjacent to property lines, we can require that whoever comes in and harvests this timber remove the slash from the property line to provide a defensible space against fire, to help. Slash is required, we're required to leave it on the landscape, that woody debris, but we understand that it's visually concerning. There you are. So we can pull that back from the property line. We can require the logger to do that at a distance of half a chain to 1 chain. Yes, sir.
May I speak?
Please.
I first found out about this in Paducah, Kentucky on Saturday evening. I don't know why, I never heard anything about it, but now that I'm here, I would talk about it a little bit. This is my property right here. That's my property line. My home, all the way to the back end of the property. You told me that this is 1,620 feet. I'm 660 feet deep, right there. This place has been in my wife's family since 1965. All the way along the west side, I've got some pretty decent oaks starting in my backyard that run all the way through here. Probably 60 to 80, maybe a little bit older on some of them. No fissures in the bark or anything. I have a tree guy come in and trim them up, take real good care of them. And on the other side, on state property, there's a whole line of oaks that run in there. They're classic. They're 60 to 80 years old, maybe even older. No deep fissures in the bark or anything, and they're just gorgeous. Granted, there's some poplar in that area, and it's old. It's 35, 40 years old, and it's falling over. I'd like to just ask you to consider, drive up my driveway. I'm not living in a mobile home or anything like that. I've got a pretty nice place. Everybody calls it paradise. Why would you want to live anywhere else? I'm going to ask you to give me a buffer. If you can give everybody down here a buffer all the way along M68, I'd like the same buffer. That hill starts at about the front of my house. I'm guessing that's probably somewhere around 100, 140 feet. I'd like to get the same thing over here and still let them go in there and pick some of that stuff that needs to come out of there, but leave some of those oak and go trash the place. Am I too late for this?
No.
And I'm going to ask everybody in here to go.
So I appreciate Mr. Casey's concern, and I know that visuals right next to your house are incredibly important. That's where you live, that's where you look every day. I would
Paradise.
ask for the opportunity if I may come out to your property and we can meet and we can discuss it further.
Absolutely. Mike, you're invited. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And at that, in this meeting, what we're recommending, again, it's more important that we can achieve some consensus for the treatment plan, not necessarily the specific treatment area, although this is the general area where we would like it. So if accommodations are made for Mr. Casey, I feel that we can still approve this treatment today and make those considerations tomorrow or whenever we can meet. Thank you.
Did you have another question?
Yeah, I just had a comment and a question. First of all, I just want to thank you for doing this, because my experience is that once an agency makes up their mind, there's no way you can ever derail it. I've never seen anything like this in my 40 years in government, so I just want to commend you and thank you for responding to Nan and the neighbors and everyone else. The meeting that we had this past Wednesday was just a wonderful meeting. Everybody was friendly. We were just trying to solve a problem. So I just wanted to thank you for that. But could you explain, so we all have a better understanding about selection harvest with gaps?
Yep, I'm glad you asked. So a selection harvest, as it sounds, we individually select trees for removal. They're usually mature and over-mature trees that are declining, so we're utilizing the tree. And in many cases, such as aspen and oak, they regenerate well after being harvested. So selection harvest is removing those trees while they still have the energy to regenerate from those roots, from the stumps. When I say a selection harvest with gaps, we still intend to implement smaller gaps, anywhere from 1/4 acre to 2 acres in size, away from the roads, not visible from trails, in order to regenerate that young age class of aspen, oak, and red maple. That accounts for, yes, sir.
So what you're saying is you're just gonna take a very, very small area and clear cut it.
Yep, so instead of a single tree,
Real small.
we might select a group of 10 trees in one spot. And again, doing that with reduced visibility, not along trails, not along the roads. It incorporates a young age class, vigorous aspen and oak and maple. Wildlife prefer the edge, it improves deer habitat.
What I was impressed with, just a comment, I believe your plan is retaining the beauty along the ATV trails. That's very important to our economy in addition to the beauty. Is that not correct?
Absolutely. And if I may, you brought up a good
Yes.
point. We've also incorporated into this the management area. We've incorporated a couple of gaps where there will be no management. There's a road that comes in, I believe, well, there's Wingate, and then there's another road that comes in here. So between those roads, not managing. We have a snowmobile trail right here that cuts through, not managing it all along the snowmobile trail. It comes down along this side. So one side of the snowmobile trail still intends to have no management along it.
When you get ready to do your select cut, you'll be marking trees, you'll be going out ahead of time, so
Yes, sir.
Steve can see what's going on.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And the other thing, you'd mentioned oak wilt, there's no negotiation on oak wilt. If you find an oak with
Yes, sir.
disease goes on.
Right. If anyone's not aware of oak wilt, it's a disease that spreads in our oaks. It spreads below ground in the roots, but it also is spread by insects above ground. So when we're talking about managing for oak wilt, the most important thing is not to wound or damage oaks from the period of May 1st to June 30th, and that's when the insect that spreads the disease is active. That's when the insect is flying from a wounded tree to a healthy tree and spreading that disease. So when we talk about reducing the risk of spread for oak wilt, we would require that any contractor that goes in there to harvest these trees doesn't go in during that time period, and that's to reduce the incident of spread or the opportunity for spread of oak wilt. It's very important to us, yes.
Could you explain the timeline from here, assuming that you're successful in getting it through the upper chambers of DNR?
Yep. Absolutely. So Margie asked me to explain the timeline, which is always a great question. So from here, if this proposal gets approved at the regional and statewide level, you're likely to see paint go on trees this year, within this summer. As for harvesting that timber, those trees, once they're painted, they go out for bid, they go into a timber sale, and a contractor has the opportunity to purchase that timber sale. Now that sale comes with a contract. That's all of our specifications on what they can and can't do. And it includes a timeline. So most of our contracts are 3 years contracts, indicating that they have, from the date of purchase, 3 years to harvest those trees anytime in that time period. So from today, we're looking at anywhere from 1 to 4 years approximately.
One more thing, did you want to let people know about your little signature thing back there?
Oh, thank you so much. So on the table back here, I do have Vanna will show you. I have a signature page here. If you want to be informed of any decisions that occur or any part of the process going forward, or if you just have questions in general and want me to contact you, there's an opportunity to put your name, your contact information via email or phone, and then an opportunity to vote to approve or reject this proposal. So there are 2 columns, so careful what you're approving and rejecting. One is for the original clear cut affecting 68, and the next column over is for the revision. So thank you. That will be up there, and if it's okay.
And just to be clear, out of that
Yes, sir.
200 acres,
Yes, sir.
the original proposal was to clear cut 40% of it, correct?
Correct.
80
Yep,
acres.
80 acres, correct. Yep. Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead, Jane.
Tricia, I'd like to thank you for coming and talking to us Wednesday. It was so informative and it was so positive. I just want to let everybody know that if we did nothing, there would be clear cut. And because of this committee of citizen activists that kind of got our interest level up, and we went to the meeting to kind of learn, I wanted just to learn. It was encouraging to have you and the committee there, because there's hope for this alternative plan. and I think it benefits the community highly to actually get the cooperative, I mean, it's gonna happen. I mean, forest management has to happen. But because they're going to like soft pedal it a little bit, it's to our benefit. Because we're not gonna lose the aesthetics from coming down 68, you know how it is in the fall. You have all the colors, and it's like you're coming home, right? When you're coming there. I mean, it's kinda like, you know, it just, and I want everybody to know too, that Tricia lives just south of town here, so she is a local person, and so she understands exactly, everything that we're trying to tell her because she experiences it every day too. So I wanna thank you, for doing this, I really do.
One last question. You said, I believe, anyone that wants to send you an email or object to the clear cut or support the other, as I recall, you would need that by the end of the month?
Well, you can send me your comments, your support, your opposition at any time. We have enough public support moving forward, especially pending your feedback on this proposal. We have enough support as it is right now to move ahead with proposing this variance and proposing the change in prescription. Additional support, additional feedback is of course welcome. I'll take it. If you have any questions or concerns, I'm happy to address those. But moving forward, I think we have the support that can help to push us across the finish line. But you're always welcome to still continue to provide that.
So you would appreciate maybe some support from maybe the local snowmobile clubs, the local neighborhood associations, maybe the sportsman's club out there, and that kind of thing. That would be.
Yes, support.
Okay.
And involvement, especially into the future, is encouraged.
Good to know.
Yep.
Right.
And, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, looking at the map, what's the owned lines to the state with DNR? What, are the yellow lines the state boundary?
Yep, that's a good question. The yellow lines are all state boundary. The straight exterior lines, those are the state boundary. The squiggly interior lines, those are what we call stand boundaries. It's just a way for us to differentiate timber types. So an area dominated by aspen versus an area dominated by pine.
So the exterior of the whole box is the yellow line that goes invisible down there and all the way across?
Yep, visible.
Okay. And you've chosen the top for what reason? The inside the red?
I'm glad you asked that question. So that area was selected because of its age, its vigor. We call it site quality.
So this whole line, the whole property's been cruised as one?
Yeah, it was all observed.
And that's a total of 200?
Yes, so this, from about here, this area is 200 acres. So,
Did a lot of logging in
it is. Yes, sir.
Question. So if we got the clubs involved, what would you like from the clubs? A letter, signatures, what can we help you
Yep,
with?
a written statement helps. As I mentioned, I do think that we have the public support right now to move forward. But a written letter of support is always helpful. Yep.
Thank you.
So,
One thing I would say is at this point, I mean, Tricia has full FRD support, so it's not a big issue. I would even suggest letting her push the variance through and she can kind of gauge it with the barometer. If there are issues where we might need more public support, maybe we can reach back out to the township. But my gut check is I don't think we're gonna have any issues.
She's tired of having her inbox jammed full.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say as far as emails, we do have a public input on the website. And the thing that's nice about that is, guys, it'll be recorded forever. I mean, once we make a comment on there, that's where we keep it. So most times people send us phone calls or information, we end up just one of ourselves to type it in. And you're in very capable hands, Tricia.
Any more questions? People, we got a question back there.
yes, sir.
You had mentioned earlier in your speech that you allow for public comment prior to making these decisions. Is that something that's publicly noticed, like in the newspaper?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
We
You were
publish
just-
it in the newspaper, online. We give townships all of our meeting information for public information. On the michigan.gov/forestry, there's an opportunity to see what we're proposing, what we're actively working on, and comment at any time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Hi. What do you do to prevent, like wherever you're clear cutting to prevent like the 1,000 potholes coming out?
Well, we do manage, for Aspen, it has a really good wildlife benefit to it. It's good habitat, especially as it grows up. It's great foraging when it's young. It's great cover for grouse and deer as it gets older. If you're asking personally of ways to not grow aspen, aspen doesn't grow well in dense shade. So if you can promote dense shade somehow, that would be a good way to prevent aspen.
But you're not going to have dense shade once you...
There will be quite a bit of shade left, so if we're only removing a third of the volume, the areas where we're intentionally trying to grow aspen, those would be those small gap cuts.
Any more questions, folks? You've been very, it's been great, Trish. Thank you very much for
I would like to make a motion to support the DNR alternative plan for the forestry management along M68, and I propose that the township present a resolution of support. I think
This is a resolution.
I second the motion.
Want to be careful here.
Yeah.
This is a resolution, does not support the Michigan, the original.
They have to do it.
Right.
So can we do?
The alternative plan is what we're supporting.
Okay, I'm just reading the first couple paragraphs. Okay, and we have that motion. And Bob seconded, okay. Now we'll read it. Whereas the Board of Trustees does not support the original Michigan Department of Natural Resources plan to clear cut 80 of 200 acres of state forests along M68 as detrimental to the natural beauty of the area enjoyed by our citizens and extremely detrimental to the tourist-based economy because of the parcel's current substantial recreational use. Whereas the Board of Trustees recognizes the benefit of responsible forestry management by the DNR and recognizes the benefit of preserving the beauty and aesthetics of mature growth forests within our township, whereas the Board of Trustees supports the DNR efforts to protect special features such as underrepresented trees and wildlife trees and efforts to protect and preserve culturally and historically significant features within our forests, whereas the Board of Trustees supports the DNR efforts to make necessary considerations for climate adaptability and watershed protection and effort to cooperate with the community to achieve healthy forests as well as preserve the beautiful environment we all love and enjoy. Therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees, Tuscarora Township, Sheboygan County, Michigan, hereby supports an alternative DNR plan presented to the community of selective cut, which preserves the aesthetics along M68 and many recreational trails in the parcel, which considers forest visibility along trails and highways, and further supports proposed gap placement that should be interior and not adjacent to roads or trails. This was motioned by Janet and supported by Bob. We need a roll call, please.
Bobby,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Jay, yes.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to thank everyone that has already sent in letters because we had been getting the word out and telling people to send official letters, and about 100 people have already sent letters in, so that's great. Thank you.
Okay, Bobby, a folding machine.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of the Max FD6104 from Van's Office Supply at a cost of $3,500.
I second that motion.
Thank you.
And it stuffs.
Now, yes, that's what I wanted to ask
Oh,
you.
it does.
It folds them and it stuffs them in the envelope?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I spoke
I want
with,
that job.
I spoke with, I don't want to take up a bunch of time talking, but I spoke with Jeff August, who services our old one that we paid a lot of money for. He took it to its life's end. He told me that we had to bury it. And the first one we were going to buy, he said, no, don't buy that, it's horrible. And so this is from the salesman, has his blessing. I did some price checking. It's a fabulous price, so
Yeah. I'm
it'll keep us
surprised.
going.
It is a used machine though.
Refurbished.
Refurbished, okay,
that's
that's
even better.
good, that's even better. You did get it at a good price. Absolutely.
So.
Okay. There's your motion, any support?
I support
Oh,
it.
it's worded, oh, sorry,
I have a
okay.
question first.
Yes.
I support it, but is there a budget for it? How do we budget to it? Are we gonna use-
It would be out of office equipment, general office equipment, and there was, yes, a budget for it previously, so as long as it hasn't moved, it should be there, yes.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I don't have the, next item is RFP for township fascia and soffit, but we aren't doing the soffit, we're just doing the fascia. Can I borrow yours?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. This agenda item, the financial impact as bid was $11,118.50, and this was ARPA funds to repair the fascia around the building. We received one response from DHS Service, or DH Services from Wolverine, and attached the RFP and the quote and the certificate of liability insurance. Is there a motion?
How much was it, 100?
$118.50.
I make a motion that we accept that.
Okay, there's a motion to accept that. Is there support? Bobby supports. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Clerk report.
Okay, we're there. I thought you wanted to put your agenda items back in.
That goes after.
All right. You want me to speak from here or from?
It's up to you.
So I'll just speak. Can everybody hear me?
No.
No. When you leave them.
All right, so I'll lean forward.
Excuse me for just 1 minute, Jay. So. Okay, let's, we need to move on with the meeting. Let's keep the chatter down, please. Gentlemen? Gentlemen? Thank you. We need to move on with our meeting here. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Let me begin. This is my report to the board on the clerk's office. The issues of transparency, financial fiduciary responsibility, election integrity and efficiency, and office operations efficacy. Over the last 10 days, I've learned that the Tuscarora Township has been featured in a video that has gone viral nationwide comparing us to election corruption in Wayne County.
It's not called for here. That's not called for.
Michael,
Point of order.
I'm leaving.
Good.
That's not called for in this meeting.
Point of order.
Michael?
Can't handle the truth, so thank you. That's not part of it.
I'm reporting the problems. I didn't invent the problems.
Proceed, Jay.
Okay. This is a complete embarrassment for our small community. Additionally, I've recently learned that a criminal complaint concerning our November 8th election process has since been referred from the Sheboygan County Sheriff to the County Prosecutor. The prosecutor has since referred this complaint to the Michigan Attorney General's Election Division. On the day of our election, I was greatly concerned that our citizens waited up to 2 hours in the cold with lines backed up to McClutchky's just to exercise their right to vote. To my knowledge, this has never happened in our township before. This is absolutely unacceptable. Let me make this very clear. This is in no way a reflection of the dedicated and hardworking election workers and observers, all of which work 12 to 16 hours straight, many with no breaks. I appreciate their dedication, applaud their commitment to this community. Rather, this is a reflection on the former township clerk who was ultimately responsible for planning and management of the elections. Our citizens deserve better, our election workers deserve better, this community deserves better. I pledge to this community and to those election workers and to this board that we will do better. This is my proposed solution on this issue. I've already purchased the approved ballot security bags that caused the problem, that caused the violations that were cited in the video in the criminal complaint. I've also ordered an additional tabulator to fill the requirement of additional precinct, which will arrive in days. I'm coordinating my efforts with County Clerk Karen Brewster, which I'm grateful to have a good working relationship. In order to reduce long voter wait times, I've ordered additional poll book computers.
The former clerk took weeks to deliver the absentee ballots, while other townships took days. I will make sure these will be mailed promptly to ensure everyone has the opportunity to vote on time. To further ensure election security, I'm obtaining bids to provide 24/7 video surveillance of our outside ballot box, drop box, as required by Michigan law. During the next budget cycle, I will approach the board with an elections budget that will provide the resources necessary to help prevent this from ever happening again. And I'm not done. There have been numerous issues that I, my deputy clerk, have had to immediately address upon taking office that were challenging in the least. These issues include, there's probably 9 or 10 of them here, workman's comp penalty. I've mentioned this before. The former clerk issued and paid a $10,000 non-compliance penalty for ignoring the audit that was required by our workman's comp insurance company. I was also informed that an additional $10K penalty will be charged if the audit is not conducted, could be charged. I am currently gathering missing documentation, and I'm currently working with the insurance company to comply with whatever other requirements they will need from us to complete their audit, and hopefully avoid any additional charges to the township. The insurance company has informed me there will be a chance to recoup some of the prior penalty if we comply. My only question is, why was the board not informed of this audit or the $10,000 penalty when it occurred? Employee records. Even the employee records for workman's comp codes in our accounting system were missing or incorrect. For example, we had an assistant assessor who visits private properties coded as librarian, among other discrepancies. Why does this matter? Well, this is the type of data, i.e. attention to detail, that may be required for the workman's comp insurance audit, and this could reflect on how much our premiums may cost us. I'm correcting these codes and discrepancies in preparation for the upcoming audit. We received an IRS notice, probably in December. From the IRS, the township failed to pay the third quarter taxes and tax returns accurately, according to the IRS. It required approximately an $8,500 payment to the IRS, including penalties and interest. The deputy clerk will speak to this issue, which required extensive work on her part to determine if and how much we owe the IRS. So it's not clear how much we owe or if we owe anything, but clearly the IRS thinks we owe them a lot of money. This is tax season. It was vitally important to get the necessary W-2s and 1099s out to our employees and vendors on time, which we did. This was an enormous task. If not corrected, could have negatively affected every employee's tax return. With assistance of Jan, my deputy clerk, this issue is being addressed, and she will comment when I complete my comments here. General ledger budget amendments. There was a failure to perform the accounting responsibilities for budget adjustments that were necessary to keep the accounts balanced. Our former clerk neglected to bring many budget adjustments forward to the board, failed to properly apportion shared expenses across multiple departments, including elections, and failed to provide our year-end audit documents in a timely manner to the auditors. It's unfortunate these delays and complications double the workload and increase the cost of our audit. I've corrected the budget imbalances. I'm already working with the auditors to ensure that my office will be prepared for the 22-23 year-end audits. We're fortunate to have Jan, who is a CPA and auditor. Her experience will ensure that the audit process will go smoothly. Compensation accounting, or wages. The former clerk attempted to make the general ledger and budget entries unnecessarily complicated when the parks does work for other departments. Her accounting process will require every department for which Parks does work to have wage and FICA budget for Parks employee wages versus a centralized account in Parks. This creative accounting system could be done, but it was set up to use funds from other departments to pay Parks wages rather than use a generous budget within the Parks department. It was set up to cover work across all departments, which they already are committed to doing across all departments. In essence, the board sets compensation budgets that must not be changed without the board approval. The former clerk's accounting process offered no business to the present accounting system. My corrections will make the budget entries more uniform, less complicated, less prone to error, because we don't need to collect data from all the departments in terms of how much work they think the Parks people did in their department. Parks employees have always performed work for other departments, and their budget was set up to cover these expenses. Again, these employees are dedicated to the work. This is a leadership issue. It's not an employee issue. Personnel and vendor record details.
There was a failure to maintain proper records with employees, vendors, and subcontractors. This included missing W-9s, up-to-date certificates of liability insurance documentation, and missing agreed-upon payroll deductions, employee leave agreements. I'm also told that vacation and casual leave documentation may not be up to date. This was a great disservice to our employees, but these issues are being addressed. The fact that Mike held up the FISA, he did have a certificate of liability in there, so that's good that we're starting to make progress. Credit card management. There were problems with credit cards. Former clerk created a business credit card for the township. She used her personal name, personal social security number to establish the account and had complete control of the account even after she left office. She not only put her own credit score at risk, she put the townships at risk as well. These cards were issued to the police, the library, the parks, and to the office. Not surprisingly, there were some fraudulent purchases that happened on one of the accounts, and she subsequently canceled the account without any prior notice, leaving us without credit cards. Fortunately, I had already submitted the necessary applications for a community credit card on behalf of the entire township. The application's been approved and the cards have been delivered. There was an additional problem with the Shell credit card for which I take full responsibility, but it's been corrected as soon as I was made aware of it in late December, and it was corrected here in late January. Township records management. Proper security for the township records is a problem. I have found that record management has minimal restrictions on who can access records without any formal checkout process or restrictions on where records can be taken for how long and if they've been returned. Security of these records is important. I take my statutory duty of this being responsible for these records very seriously. File cabinets are being organized, and I've instituted a procedure for viewing records. We will also be looking at the possibility of having security cameras placed in the building. This will improve security for the township employees and the public. We had door locks just recently changed as part of this. And in doing so, there was unintentional oversight in coordination with all the stakeholders, of which I sincerely apologize, but rest assured that will not happen again. We made efforts to communicate, but they weren't sufficient. So, one last thing, and then I'd like Jan to take over here with her discussion. Mesa healthcare insurance premiums, the former clerk was notified in October that the Mesa insurance payments would have a rate increase starting January 1st, payable December 1st. I was not notified of this change. So when we were notified in January of the incorrect deductions, we had to play catch up and rework the required changes for the employees, but this has since been corrected. So at this point, and I'll have some final thoughts once Jan's finished with her thoughts or her comments. At this point, I'll let my deputy clerk, Jan Dillay, present an update of the work that she's been doing. Thank you.
I've been doing this a long time, and the one thing that will impact employee morale in a negative way, very quickly.
Can you turn it to the floor?
Sure.
Bring it back
Thank you.
just a microphone.
That's right there. Best imitation of Man White, however. I don't know if I actually need this. So, if you wanna demoralize your employees and your staff, screw up their paychecks, screw up their benefits. Nothing is more effective than that, and that's certainly not the goal here. As we came into office and approached year end, we had to figure out where we were so that we could figure out how to get W-2s done and year end closed for the benefit of all the employees and get them their information in a timely manner. Here's what I found. Actionable notices received in this period, 16 actionable notices. I come to all of these meetings. I've always come to these meetings for 6 years. Not one of these notices was included in correspondence to the board. These notices are going to happen, hopefully not 16 in a year, but to the extent that they do happen, they should not be hidden in the office, which brings me to rule number 1. There is no place to hide stuff in the accounting department. And I tell everyone that works with me that if you see something, say something. If you did something, admit it. The sooner we admit it, the sooner we can fix it. And generally speaking, that's the cheapest way out. So I'll give you an example of this. In March, we received a notice from the state of Michigan that said there was a problem with January withholding. The proposed penalty on that notice was $6. There is no evidence that we answered that notice. We received a second notice in May, and now the penalty is $60. And again, there is no evidence that we answered that notice. The third notice was received sometime before November. I haven't actually seen the notice itself, but I determined that we paid $297 to clear that one notice because we waited 11 months. So that's problem number one. I don't care that we got notices. I would like to reduce the number of notices we get, but those notices should never be a matter that is only known to the people in the office. You all should know that this is going on. Okay, UIA returns. We have two accounts, one for the library, one for the township. We should have 6 returns. We filed 6 returns. Every one of those returns was incorrect. So we reported taxable wages, but we did not report the earnings of the employees. Why is that important? Well, UIA says that in order to collect benefits, you must be able to show, and that means your employer should report, that you earned at least $20,000, $23,000 approximately over 4 quarters. If you work for the township in the last year, your wages were reported at $9,500. And you would receive no benefit should you be in a position where you had to collect. That should never happen. All of those returns have been amended and refiled with the state. And the 4th quarter returns are complete. This is what I found. It's not like there's a file in the office that says tax correspondence and the answer to the tax correspondence and how those issues were resolved. There's Post-it notes, there's scribbles. I'm not confident that all of those notices are all the notices the township received. They just happen to be the ones that I found. That's absolutely unacceptable. Okay, 941 returns. These are the returns corrected 6. 941 returns. Again, there should be 6 returns, one for each of the first 3 quarters until Jay and I stepped in to fix this. Of the 6 returns, the 1st quarter for the library incorrectly reported wages and needs to be amended. The 4th quarter for the township includes some adjustments because of the treatment of election worker wages. I won't soft pedal the fact that the payroll for the township is difficult. You have elected employees, you have appointed employees, you have part-time employees, you have hourly employees, you have salary employees, you have collective bargaining, and you have election workers. And frankly, I had not read through the rules on election workers prior to this assignment. One person, we had to gross up their wages because all of it should have been subject to tax, and the election inspection wages were excluded. There is one person who did work the election, and I missed adjusting their W-2 wages at the end of the year, and they did get a corrected W-2. State unemployment returns, or state withholding returns. So this is the money we withhold from your check so that you can pay your state income taxes. This is where it got really ugly. So the library reports quarterly, so there should be 3 returns, and the township has 10 returns for the first 10 months of the year. So there should be 13 returns. There are 25. And the 3rd quarter for the library was not filed. That was due October 20th. It was not filed until we discovered that it had not been filed, so it was filed in December. The township returns were either filed late or amended for every month from January through August, some with 3 and 4 amendments. The June return is still not correct, and it is on my list to fix. So this brings me to rule number 2. Ask questions, trust your gut. If you don't know how to do something, if you're overwhelmed, if you need help, ask. If you don't know who to ask who to ask. If you don't know what to ask whatever comes to mind and keep asking until you get answers. But preparing tax returns, other people's money in the dark and hoping you get it right is not a strategy. And maybe that isn't what was going on here, but it's clear to me that we did not bring the resources to bear that were necessary to succeed in this project. So, a remarkable number of errors here. On EFTPS payments, the penalties here are egregious. If you pay more than 3 days late, it's 2%. If you pay 5 to 10 days late, it's 5%. It goes up to 10% immediately after that. If they send you a notice and you don't pay it immediately, it's 15%. Of the 58 payments that were made in 2022, between January 1st and the middle of October, 14 of them were made incorrectly. So, I can't tell you right now that we've resolved all of this. I think we have, but I'll be honest. I'm doing the best I can with the information I have, and I know it's not complete. MTO, we had 57 payments, and 8 of them are in error. This is why you get notices. When you get notices and you ignore notices, it's like a snowball rolling down a hill, and it doesn't get better until you sit down and you fix it.
Jan, could I just make a comment?
Sure.
Just so everybody's aware, the 941s are federal, and the SUWs are state. Those are returns. Those are tax returns. And the EFTPS and MTO is where you need to make payments. So you have to make a payment, then you got to tell the government that you made a payment with the tax return, just in case that wasn't obvious to everybody.
Thank you. So, the problem is the culture in the office. People do not feel comfortable asking for help, clearly. People do not feel comfortable asking questions. One of the things you learn early in accounting is that you do everything twice and then you ask somebody else to look at it before it goes out the door. And it's not a slam on anybody's ego. It's not a slam on anybody's integrity to have someone sign off on your work and make sure that you didn't miss something. Especially when it's someone else's money, when it's their paycheck, when you make a mistake and they're going to get a notice from the government asking them what they did. So,
And that has happened, because I have visited people out in the community, and they told me that has happened.
So, and I want to be clear, I'm not here to fix blame. I'm here to get us to fix the problem. No one person is responsible for this. Everyone in this room is responsible for this, because we allowed it to happen. And we allowed people to put their hand up and say, I don't need help. And we put our hand up and said, we're going to move forward with this and not get people the sufficient training that they needed in order to accomplish this successfully. If we can't fix the culture, then we can't move forward with a $14 million sewer project and not see things like this happen. I'm telling you it will. And the government will not take it lightly, and it will be a failure. So we have a lot of work to do. I have a letter drafted for the state notice that we received about a payment for July, which I think we made correctly. But because there are so many errors in the payments and the reporting, they can't even figure it out themselves. So we're doing the best we can.
What was that, the 8.5 or 8,500?
No, that's the $1,200 one.
right.
The $8,500 one. Again, I think we made the payment. I can't prove we made the payment. I'm doing the best I can to reconcile that account to make sure that if the payment was not made, I feel pretty confident we can write a letter and ask for abatement of the penalties. So I appreciate your patience. That was a lot. It's a lot of detail and a lot of techie accounting stuff. Thanks.
Thank you, Jen. I got just some final thoughts. Sure. And then one more minute. So as you can see, there's the financial records of this township, in my opinion, are unacceptable. These include things like the general ledger, the budget, the sparse documentation of employee payroll, approved deductibles, in the employees folder, tax payments, tax returns, and my deputy clerk and I are repairing all these issues as fast as we can while still trying to get the work out on a day-to-day basis, while trying to make improvements as we go forward. Let me be clear, mistakes are made by everyone, including myself, and I'm sure Bobby will be glad to share some of the mistakes I've made. I'll be glad to share those mistakes if you care to listen to them, but I'm not going to do it here. If you want to come visit me, I'll share you what the challenges have been in terms of getting this work done. Early last fall, I asked the board to develop a transition process that would have minimized most of these issues, but the clerk refused the request. I was laughed at and publicly ridiculed. You may recall the former clerk had the supervisor, Mike, and I use this word half-heartedly, read my written request at a board meeting. I'm not picking on you, Mike, but I didn't feel you had the emotion in that, the reading of that letter. The truth is, they are really laughing at the citizens and our employees, all of which relied on a smooth transfer. In fact, our employees thought they were all going to get fired when I first came into office. From the police to office administration, everybody. Somebody out there is poisoning the well. That didn't happen, obviously. This has been a report to the board on the issues we found, corrected, or had corrections in process. Why? Why would I do this? I need the board to support further improvements in transparency, financial responsibility, election integrity, and efficiency in office operations. Rather than, this is the way we've always done it, this report focused on the office of the clerk. There are other opportunities for improvement that will be brought to the board in the near future as these become more visible and as we do the homework necessary to resurface issues. In the months ahead, I'm developing a monthly schedule to outline the timetable and dates for each deliverable due from the clerk's office, including elections. It will eventually be expanded to address other township deliverables such as budget, grants, brining. And grants is a big process. We've spent hours just trying to get into the grant network within the last several days, more than hours probably a day. Processes will be documented with procedures and standardized work to enable the implementation of our recently passed Township of Excellence administrative policies. I'll also do my best to communicate better to the other board members, other departments, other employees, and other citizens. Time has been precious. I try to communicate as much as I can, but it's difficult when not everybody's in office at the same time and not there to listen to what needs to be talked about. We're all in this together. When our elected officials have proper support to succeed, the people of this township will reap the benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. You have some things you want to...
Minutes, okay, and I can give these, Jan or Jay, to you. 12:26 minutes. Doug Kuipert's last name is spelled wrong in 2 places on the second page.
I don't know.
No, we didn't have this one.
No, this
is, yeah, these are current ones that.
So that's KIE?
No, I got it.
Yeah, KI. On the 3rd page of that, we have a motion moved by Ridley, supported by blank. So there should be a name in there.
It wasn't supported.
There you go. Supported by no one, maybe we should say.
Yeah, I agree.
Just so we know.
Well, how would you like us to?
Yeah, motion
Motion
died.
died for lack of support.
No, it didn't carry.
Didn't it?
You moved forward without the second.
Okay,
We
So I
gotta
would
figure
say-
out how we're gonna fix those things.
yeah. But I would say, because it looks like a typo, maybe put something.
Yeah, but
Like, not supported.
I'm willing to put whatever you suggest would be appropriate.
Moved by Ridley, no support given.
All right.
Okay.
But, and then voted, I mean, it shows the error.
Yeah, we made an error there.
Okay, so here's the other one. On a motion move to add budget adjustments to the agenda under new business, there's not a vote, but it says motion carried.
Is that when we adjourned and then came back?
No, prior to that. Or no, this was, yeah, I'm on January 3rd meeting now. It's the first thing in the January 3rd meeting. So no, it was the very beginning. So I think we just need to put the vote in there.
Okay. Thank you for catching those.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it.
And then one other one, and again, these are all just, I think we should just have them right. Move to adopt the contract with, it's not Fire Association Inc., it's Tuscarora Township Volunteer Fire Association. Is there a correct name? So that we have it all in there.
Which ones were that? Was that?
That's still in January 3rd, the 6th page or so. Still on January 3rd, we call the non-compliance fee a penalty one place, non-compliance fee the next. I believe it is a non-compliance fee, so we should change penalty to non-compliance.
The fee, I mean.
Non-compliance fee. And that's January 3rd. January 13th, there's a typo, clerk reads mad emotion. Just an E, need to add an E there.
Well, I'm sorry, that's
It says clerk reads mad emotion.
okay. Made a motion.
Made. There's another spot right on that same page where it's called a $10,000 penalty, not a non-compliance charge. I think we should just stay consistent with that. And then.
So non-compliance charge or fee?
Fee. Non-compliance fee. And then in that same one, in all of our board minutes, we have put, per the policy, public comment name and their comment. And board comments says how many comments. This gives the board comments, so I think that should be struck, and it should say 2 board comments made.
Okay.
2 board comments.
I'll make a motion, we accept those
As amended.
amended.
Do you want these?
I second.
Please.
Any more discussion?
Thank you, Bobby.
Any more discussion? All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Bobby, what else did you have?
Treasurer report.
Treasury report.
No, I think I'm good with my treasure report. Though, the payables though, can I ask a question, Bob? You started to answer it before the meeting. Where is it? Gay Bridge. So it was 12.5 for the regular contract and 500 for him to come here. So that's 13,000, and we have an invoice for 13,540. We're missing,
Yeah, we took the invoice, we took the amount right off of their invoice.
but we were looking for a breakdown because our contract was for 12.5 or 12.3. So there, we have some money in there not accounted for in that invoice.
All right, well, we obviously have to pay it, so we will go back.
Right, so we don't want to approve it. I think we move that out to approve these bills.
Okay.
Till we
You make that
clarify.
motion?
I would make that motion.
I second.
Thank you.
I agree, we need, but we have a 30-day window to get that done, so. What do you suggest we do in terms of,
I don't know, because if we would have, we didn't see it, so.
no, I understand. I'm trying to get it right. but I
Right.
don't want to take a month to get it right, that's all.
No,
I think he'll be all right.
Good job.
yeah.
All right.
Or I could make a motion to pay the contract fee plus the $500 travel fee, and then we leave the
All right, let's do that then.
difference, because that way we get the majority out. And we clarify what that is. Motion to pay the contract fee, which is either 12.5 or 12.3. Since I don't have it in front of me, whatever that contract fee was,
I believe it was 12.5. but
I think so too.
I'll double check it.
Okay, and then 500 for travel.
Yep.
So we pay that fee, and then we find out what the balance is before we pay it.
So we'll make a large payment of that amount, and then if there's additional payments, we'll bring it back to the board.
Yes. So we
Okay,
know.
I support that motion. I
Thank
second it.
More discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And then I just pulled out the, that payroll. I can't approve paying that payroll. I have to vote. So I would just, I have no changes. But due to the circumstances of how the payroll happened, I can't approve it. So I just to vote to pay, to approve that payroll, but I have to vote.
Let me explain what happened.
I have to vote no.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
I'll explain.
Okay.
Like I said, mistakes are made. We had Doug Kuiper come in to the into the payroll, and you're supposed to do a pre-note. Pre-note is to make sure that all the banks talk to one another, for lack of a better words, routing and checking numbers. So I ran out of time. I didn't get it right. Bobby caught it the next day. I went and worked with Magic Writer out of Citizens National Bank to get the issue resolved. Unfortunately, in getting the issue resolved, I don't know where the cross communication came in, but it was, not only did I write the voucher, I approved it. And that's what Bobby is questioning. Not by a mistake, either a mistake in communication with them or them miscommunicating with me. The fact is, though, we got it corrected. I got my authorization taken away. I had to go back to remedial Magic Writer, and then I got my authorization back. So that's the issue. Bobby's not voting for it, I understand. Perfectly acceptable. Do you understand?
Line up and count out by 4, that's my. Yeah, I think I understand, yeah.
It's not very complex at all.
How do we
Yeah.
correct?
We corrected it,
We
but
corrected it.
I just can't, because I didn't approve it, we didn't follow the right.
Oh, I
See,
I
understood.
can't,
But
yeah.
everything's okay though.
I understand.
So we'll
She
just-
can't approve it because she didn't have a chance to approve the
Oh, because
payroll.
it's a
Oh, I
two,
understand.
it's a two-step process.
Even though we were in discussion with one another, so it wasn't a
Okay.
case of I was
Yeah,
trying
I
to
got
slide
it.
something by, it was a
I
mistake,
got it.
and she should
But
have
it's
done her
all corrected.
statutory duty to
Yeah.
basically approve
And I
it.
did,
Okay.
because I could.
That's all good then. It's
Yeah,
all good
it's
going
good.
forward then.
Okay, just to pay the bills, motion,
Nope, make a motion to approve that payroll.
is there a motion to approve the payroll?
I make the motion.
Is there support?
Support.
Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, anything else?
No, I got my treasurer's report, I
Okay,
figured out what I did.
okay.
So we should actually, though, a motion to approve my treasurer's report as presented.
I make that motion.
Because it's-
Okay, is there support?
I'll support.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public comment? Yes, sir. 3 minutes, people, remember that, you're on the clock.
Hopefully I'll be a lot shorter than that.
Okay.
Just want to go back, and I hate to beat a dead horse, but we talked about using money to pay for Club Road, and, you know, the show we put on, the presentation showed that you're going to use $132,000 of federal money and $36,697 of township money to pay for this road. I have an issue with that because my calculation, now maybe I'm getting old and dumb, I'm not sure. You're using $168,697 of township money. That money was given to the township for township improvements. At that point, it becomes township money. So you're basically using township money that could be used for other things in the township, to pay for a county secondary road. You can beat around all you want. The County Road Commission considers that a secondary road. They won't pay for it. Like I said, we paid for Eagles Nest. And oh, by the way, in case any of you don't know it, Eagles Nest Road, which is not even 7 years old, from Straits Highway to Pineway Path, has a passer rating of 3. That means that road is not repairable. It has to be crushed and repaved to be fixed, which would be another assessment for the people who just paid off the first assessment. And as far as the boat launch traffic coming off 68, where is the sign that informs people of the boat launch? Is it on 68? No, it's on Straits Highway. That is the county primary road to get there. That's the road to be used as East Mall Lake Road. That's all I'm gonna say, thank you.
Public comment? Public comment, yes, ma'am.
First of all, I'm requesting that Jay quit bringing up that he should have been trained prior to the November 8th election. You weren't elected, therefore you cannot be trained. Also, so what I'm understanding is you guys have approved you're gonna pay for Club Road, is that correct? Can somebody nod their head
I
or
did.
tell me
I
go?
did. Yeah, that's what the vote is.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. I am in a loss for words. This board has been in office for approximately 3 months, and you are proving that you are no different from any other board. You each have your own agenda, so you take turns being the puppet master, and the remaining puppets just vote for whatever the puppet master wants, instead of what the community has expressed they would like to have. I don't get it, and I agree with Paul. We paid for ours, and why you think it's fair that Club Road, I'm all for the $750. I'm for $250. But I'm not for this township paying the whole damn thing. It's not fair.
Thank you. Public comment? Yeah, public comment, Ron? Go ahead, Mr. Prout, go ahead.
I just want to remind everybody that, on a totally different note, there's the DNR left a list here. If you'd like to stay informed about what's going on with the clear cut and the new alternative to the clear cut, we urge you to check this side and reject.
Go to the podium, please.
Oh. Sorry, Tom, that was my fault. I should have directed you up there. Yes.
That's okay. I've never been told that I haven't been heard well. I just want to remind everybody that the DNR left this petition. And if you want to stay informed and make your feelings known about the clear cut versus the alternative, I urge you to put your email in here and to check the appropriate boxes. Thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Prout. I saw Ron get up there, Ron.
Kind of hard to miss there, Michael. I only had 2 comments, now I have 3. I see Mr. Waldron left. I don't have a horse in this race. I firmly believe that the township should not own property that's not in public use or where there's a plan for public use. But I don't understand how a survey establishes value. Where is the BPO or the appraisal to comply with the fair market value requirement? Now, that comment is not meant to favor either the buyer or the seller. An appraiser could tell you that the the value is lower than what's been proposed, thereby saving Mr. Waldron some money. Closing costs are buyer's costs, so any savings would be to the buyer, not to the township. Someone has to pay for the survey that establishes the easement that you guys have agreed to. Please get a BPO or a full appraisal just to CYA for the township. Thank you for the DNR. This is just another example of how public correspondence needs to be made public. It actually needs to be made public. I'll say it slowly, I'll say it again. This not only applies to letters from other government entities, but from businesses, citizens, the media, anything that would require board action or the expenditure of funds. We've just heard dozens of examples where that did not happen. It was unacceptable then, it is unacceptable now. My last comment, 2 meetings in a row, Mr. Charbonnet has had outbursts. In prior meetings, Mr. Charbonnet came up here, introduced himself as the chairman of a committee, then personally attacked trustees. Mr. Charbonnet should resign.
Other comment? Yes, sir.
I'm Patrick McGinnis. Most of you know me. Look at the microphones up there right now. Mr. Kramer, you don't know how to use a microphone. It won't work if it's not pointed at you. That white noise generator you brought in that tried to disrupt our recording tonight didn't work. I can filter that out. You are doing everything you can. You call on transparency in this board. You're the least transparent person on this. That thing's sitting in front of you.
It has no batteries in it.
That you were told at the beginning of the meeting was generating white noise on one channel we're recording. We brought microphones in because you have a habit of not using your microphone, blaming it on batteries. This is the 3rd time I've asked the board to get new batteries on a monthly basis so that the public can hear what's being said. And keep your hand away from your mouth when you're talking, because that even makes it worse. Thank you.
Okay. Public comment hearing?
I would ask this board to listen attentively when people speak, not be shuffling papers, not looking at your iPad. A few years ago, they had a Flint water crisis, and the doctor that discovered the lead in the water had a series of interviews. And she was asked, well, why wasn't this brought up sooner? Well, because there was one man that came in that thought he was the smartest guy in the room. That was Governor Snyder. And she said, you know what happens when you think you're smarter than everybody else? You don't listen. And that's true in this room to all people. I would also, on a lighter note, every one of you should go home and make sure you have no top secret documents in your homes and no balloons over your houses, because the DOJ and the FBI could come knocking on your door.
Public comment, Mr. Murdoch, upset.
Point of order.
Sir, can
I
I
had my comment.
Can I get you? All I want to know is your name. so we
My
can get
name
to the
is
record.
Harry and the Hendersons. Have you seen the movie?
Oh, it is, it's great.
I'm living the life.
Go ahead, Mr. Murdoch. That's Bob Murdoch. Okay.
Well, I will say this room does put the fun in dysfunctional, I can tell you that. So, this is a small town, and you know, I was raised to believe that friends are friends and business is business. This is a business. Running a township is a business. And 5 years ago, Patty allowed me to buy Hal Marine, which when I look back on that day was probably one of the stupidest things I think I've ever done in my life at age 60. But here we are in our 5th summer. And I will tell you that you learn a lot. My family's been here since 1882. We bought our first home over in Harbor Springs, and I grew up on Crooked Lake. I worked at the Windjammer Marina. The reason I forced my lovely wife to allow me to buy the marina is because Windjammer Marina got torn down and turned into condos and slips, and it broke my heart. And that's what was going to happen at Hal Marine. So she said, okay, let's go ahead and do this. And as a business person, my family business has been around 170 years. I'm 5th generation. And so I signed the front of the paycheck. I know exactly what they're going through trying to figure out this mess, because my wife will cut my throat, throw me on the side of the road here shortly, because she handles our books too. It's a thankless job. There's state reporting, there's local reporting, there's federal reporting, there's unemployment, there's everything else that goes with it. But my point is, and I'm going to ruin my 3 minutes here, most of you here in the room are local residents. Most of you enjoy the Homestead Act, okay, which removes 18 mills from your taxes. That goes to support the schools. Every business in this town pays that 18 mills. It's Chris, it's Craig, it's a gentleman who just bought and is redoing the in-between. He's also bought and redone the 310. I encourage you to go there. Rumor has it he's also bought Vivio's. So he's got investments in 3 restaurants here in town. And I will tell you that taxation law representation is very clear. I pay the 18 mills. That's a big hunk of money to get out of the schools. Every non-resident that has a home here in this neighborhood, around Burt Lake, around Mull Lake, around every township in Sheboygan County, pays that 18 mills. So taxation is never fair. Club Road is a mess. Club Road's speed limit, by the way, is 55 miles an hour. I don't know if people knew that. It's 55 miles an hour to go up and through there. Most people who drive that road drive down the middle because the edges are unsafe. I can tell you, it's not fair to tax anyway. Mike, I don't know what the assessment is or what the special assessment district total is over 5 years. Did you give me a number for that? How many, what the total was?
$750 per, it was 11,000 and change.
Okay.
Yeah.
I make the motion, if you want to have a special assessment district, I'll pay that $11,000. Because you know what, I want people to be able to come to my marina and be safe coming down that road. Hauling that $100,000 boat, making a turn on Martha Street with a 30-foot offshore boat, ripping off the light pole and destroying the curbs and whatnot is really not an answer. I agree. If I were a private resident, you know, Scott Swanson, we'll close that road. That's fine. But that doesn't stop anything. The amount of traffic that is handled there is about 2,500 cars a day. Doesn't happen on, well, I live off East Mull Lake Road. My commute has everything from pigeons and birds to trees and God knows whatever else walks on 4 legs. But taxation is never fair. It never is. Republican, Democrat, we should be home listening to Biden's speech. My secret's are safe on Hunter's laptop. I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mercer.
So the point is, we all have to work together somehow. It's not always going to be pretty, but somehow we have to work together. So, Mike, I'll make the motion. Bob and Patty Morrow will pay that special assessment for the $10,000, $11,000. Count me in on that, because it means that much.
We can talk about that. Yes,
That's
sir.
fine.
I do appreciate, you've been very generous. Thank you. Public comment? Public comment. Okay, yes, sir.
I'm just curious, there seems to be so much turmoil over special assessment. And I haven't looked at every election over the last few years, but I know it was talked about in 2019. Has there ever been a vote for a road millage where there's money in a fund instead of just using, because I know that a lot of people get sick of special assessments. And everyone runs on no new taxes, we're not gonna raise taxes. You might not put a road millage up for a vote, but when you do a special assessment, it really is a tax. I mean, you're paying for the road. And I just wondered why there's never been a road millage proposed to do away with the special assessment that seems to cause so many problems. And the taxes here really aren't bad. I just sold my house downstate in the spring. Same dollar value as it is here. My taxes were 3 times higher there. So I don't think a road millage would be out of the question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Public comment? Public comment? Okay. Public comment is closed. Board comment. Jay?
I just wanted to let the board know what I read in the newspaper today, that apparently the Board of Commissioners on their February 14th meeting is going to propose that they make available $400,000 in ARPA funds and then take applications like a grant process. So I just wanted to inform the board and maybe put your thinking hats on what we might want to submit. I'd be willing to write that.
Thank you. Jake?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, going back to what Rod said, we have what, 270 million in taxable properties here in Tuscarora Township. And the county commission, road commission, takes about $1 million out of our taxes. So I think that comes up to about $270,000, if I did my math correct. So the county is getting $270,000 from all the residents here in Tuscarora Township. But yet, all we're getting out of them is $25,000. And so we're a donor to all the other townships, or to half the other townships in the county. So the argument, the argument should be with the county and what are they going to do to get additional funds from other townships, or giving this township our funds. Or possibly, I've heard, how do we get our mill back, and then we put it in our pocket instead of their pocket. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you to Chris Brown from the Convention Visitors Bureau and Shiloh Slomsky. They did a great job, I think, at the Winterfest last week. I don't know if the chili cook-off went as well as it was designed to be, but I can tell you, I was at Northland Brewery, and they had they were totally overcrowded. I mean, they couldn't fit more people in there if you tried. So I think it was a great success. Oh, thank you, Chris, that you're here, but Shiloh's not.
Jen?
No, good.
Bobby?
Yes. First of all, I mentioned this previously, but way back when the special meetings were taking place, there was a motion and it passed to use Robert's Rules of Order. I have said previously, we're not using them. I have been trying to study them. They're very hard to understand. We're not using them at all. It's embarrassing that we have adopted a procedure that we totally ignore. So again, I would like the board to think about perhaps next month we go back to a regular standard meeting situation. Second, Jay, I'm not going to bring up the things that I'm finding and the issues that I'm having in the office now. Because the truth of the matter is, I don't think the way that your presentation went was fair. Because of that, because all new clerks, we have had clerk turnover. I have struggled since Sue left. Sue wasn't doing it Janice told me, Sue wasn't doing it 100% right either. No one's going to do it 100% right. And we've talked, I've come into your office, we've said, move forward. That didn't feel like moving forward. That didn't feel like communication. Do you want to talk? Do you have something to say?
No.
Okay. So I was in the office this week and was getting ready to leave to go home for lunch, and Janet came into the office, and I was standing outside of Jay's door talking to Laura, and I knew about this presentation because Janet gave it to Jay and said you can use Bob's video, you don't have to use Bob's video, whatever Jan's presentation, then you can say this. So, well, Janet, I stood outside the door and listened to it. I heard the $8,500 number, and I thought to myself, wow, I don't know about this. Jan had kind of mentioned to me some of these issues, but why did we do that? Why are we communicating like that? Why do I not have a key to the downstairs room, the records room, and I didn't know it?
Top secret files.
No, it's just, you just said, you gave your whole spiel and you just said, let's work together, but I constantly feel like you're not working with me. I have sat down in your office and said, Jay, let's work together. I really think you and I could make some good movements here. And you said to me, I'll never ask anyone in this office a question. I'll never come here because I don't trust you.
I did say that.
Yeah. We've got to get past that. It's been months. I don't know how, Jan, you said it. We are going to blow the sewer project. We are going to be the worst failure this township has ever seen if we continue on.
So Bobby, why should I trust you?
Because I want the best for this township, and if you haven't seen that in my
I
work,
need more than you wanting the best for this township.
that's how I work.
Well, I need
Okay,
more
we're
than...
getting a little bit off
Yeah,
track here.
that's how I work. We have to work together. You don't have to like me.
So you want the best for the township. Do you want to go there? You want to go there, Bobby? I'm
I don't know,
serious.
Jay. I'm just saying, I just listened to what I listened to. I know what I heard in the office.
Were we better served when all of that was hidden undercover and no one discussed it?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. We need to move forward. But
Yeah,
I think how we move forward has to be kinder. It has to be more together. I can't feel like, I don't know if that was meant, like, oh my gosh, what did I do? How did I contribute? I don't think I did. But am I gonna come in here one day and no one's gonna have said anything to me for a month and I am gonna have made a horrible mistake? And this is how I'm gonna find out? I don't want to work like that. I don't think we can go forward like that. We have got to work together, and I mean that wholeheartedly. So I don't know what this board needs to do, but we've gotta. No one needs to work like this.
You know, tomorrow you'll be in the office,
Yes.
and you'll be in the office.
Yeah.
I think you two have to talk. And I don't mean to be
Yeah.
solemn or anything like that. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's obvious.
Yeah.
I think sitting here having a conversation about, I think it's time.
Yeah, it's gotta be a whole board effort. It
Yeah.
can't be, because, you know, Jay, I say, like, you don't think you can trust me, but I don't think I can trust you either, and I think I've said that. Because I feel like, I don't know if I'm talking to Jay, or I'm talking to Bob, or I'm talking to Janet. So, we've gotta get past that. We've all gotta communicate. It's not just us, we've all gotta communicate, and we can't feel like it's 3 on 2.
I'll be glad to talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Or any more board comments? I have one thing to say, I need help. And I'll not even known that for a lot of years, but I need help. I'm asking Sue Fisher to be my deputy supervisor. She's been working on the spreadsheets, and so sometime in the next few days, we'll ask you to swear her in, Jay. So, any more board comments? Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Bobby?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. People travel safe.